Okay, in the process of working on Mitch's tachometer here from his 75 Laguna, I'm going to attempt to restore this. You can see it's pretty badly damaged by the fire that hit the restoration shop that his Laguna was at the time. I'm going to try to glass bead all this off and try to match this blue without interfering with this decal that was put on here by the tackman that was repaired back in 2018. So I'm going to have to remove this two-sided tape in the original circuit board here, and I'm going to have to seal up around the case that goes around, or the casing that goes around the windings, to make sure that there's no media that gets in there, and get the strip down so I can get it the face of it in black. And then, like I said, I've got a blue that's a pretty close match to this. I may have to tweak it a little bit to get it to look halfway decent, but I didn't want to interfere with any of the stuff that's already on here, like these factory markings and stuff. I'm just going to try to clean up the edges here, and I didn't want to paint over on the actual part number for this assembly, so I'm going to try to keep all that intact. But right now I'm going to take the needle off, and you just kind of wiggle these things back and forth just a little bit, and then they'll eventually pop off. So what I'll do is I'll airbrush this and get the red to stand out a little bit better, the fluorescent orange red that the factory put on here. It's more like the color on the back here. So my next step is to try to separate this double-sided tape here. And what I'm going to try to do is get a little rubbing alcohol in there to kind of dissolve the adhesive on the back of that. Thing I want to point out here, almost done through this, but the tackman created his own circuit board here and completely bypassed everything on the factory circuit board. I don't know if you can see that or not. You see everything, all the chips and resistors and things are stripped off the back of this, so he's got wires that tie into these posts that go to his board. And then he's got a potentiometer here to dial in the calibration of the needle once it's all put back together. So I'm going to try to keep all this as similar as possible. So it goes back together and it looks just like the tackman just got done doing his magic to it. See if I'm getting any closer on this. Stuck on there pretty good. Alright, I brought up the big guns here, and I've got the scraper, putty knife, whatever you want to call it. There we go. Okay. So I got that circuit board separate. Now I got to take off these 3 posts that go into the windings here. Okay, so that loosens that, and you're able to remove it off the housing here. And like I said earlier, the TACman completely removed all the IC chips, the diodes, and the resistors off of this circuit board, and simply soldered onto the posts that actually connect to the inside the dash, and then came up with, I don't know if he manufactured this or had it done, but this replaces this whole assembly here essentially. So, and again, you can dial it in with this potentiometer that he's got on the board. So we're going to set that off to the side for safekeeping. And now I've got to get this thing prepared to go into the blast cabinet. So I've got this hose cap here that fits in here really nice, so I can keep debris from getting down in there. And what I'm going to try to do is get some tape to go around the edge here, just to reduce any possibility of any kind of dust or anything getting in there. Alright, I got this thing all taped up, trying to protect the seam here along where the housing is. Also the mounting points back here, I've got an old plastic cap on here that I've taped off, and I've got the rubber plug here to protect all that. So the next step is to put it in the blast cabinet and get everything stripped down the best I can. Okay, hopefully you can kind of see what's going on here in the blast cabinet. I got a pretty good light on it. I'm going to try to do this without turning on the vacuum here to suck out all the dust. Takes that stuff off pretty quick. So I'm going to try to retain most of this stuff on the back here. So I think I'm pretty much done on the sides. Now I got to finish this face. It pains me to do this, but I think we got something to work with here. Alright, here's the finished product here after blasting. So I got a good clean base to work from. I'll go over this with some wax and grease remover. Also on the sides here and the back. And like I said, I'll try not to damage any of these markings, including his decal. And what I'll do before I actually paint it is, after I've cleaned it with the wax and grease remover, I'll actually hit this thing with a torch, one of those micro torches, and heat up any of the residual solvents that are left inside the actual pores of the metal and any other contaminants. That way it's got a good base to work from. Okay, I'm going to hit this with some wax and grease remover. Gotta be real careful not to mess up these pins, these stop pins for the needle. And obviously the pin where the needle rotates. So wipe it down the best you can. You see it kind of evaporates on its own. Now, what I like to do before I actually get this set up for paint is hit it with the micro torch, and you'll see what happens here. You can see how it evaporates all the residual solvent. You don't want to get it too hot, otherwise you'll cook some stuff, but just enough to remove any kind of residual contaminants. Try not to burn my little rubber stopper there. Yeah, it's getting kind of warm now, so I'll set that down and do the rest of it here. Okay. That is ready for paint. Okay, hopefully you can see this. I'm about to hit this with the black. First coat is a light coat. Just acting like a glue. And we'll let that flash off for about 10 or 15 minutes. And then we'll hit it again. Okay, that's flashed off. I'm going to hit it with another coat here. This one will be a little bit heavier. Okay, let that flash off. I'm going to hit it with one more coat after this. Okay, this is the third and final coat, hopefully. I'm going to use a light to kind of help me with the spray here. That's good. Alright, just got done putting its last coat on of the black. If you can see that. It's got, I guess, an appropriate sheen to it, not too shiny, not too flat. And I'm going to let that cure for about 48 hours. Also have to still paint the sides here and get that blue, and I'm going to try to make it look as factory as possible, but once the backside is painted that light blue, then I'll start working on getting the graphics on here. Alright, about to spray the blue on the back of the tachometer that I believe GM uses to get more reflective properties from the instrument cluster lights. So all that bounces around back here and I guess goes in through this slot to illuminate the front of this gauge. So I'm going to try to recreate that the best I can. I've got this Wicked Colors here by Createx Colors, and it's called the Wicked Laguna Blue. So kind of ironic that this is going into a Laguna. Anyways, it's the closest color I could find. I may have to add some white or other colors to it to get it closer, but I'm going to start out with this to see what it looks like. And I've got it on this foam to kind of keep any overspray from getting on the face of the gauge. Okay, I'm going to do a test spray just to see how it reacts on the paper. So when you push down, you just get air, and then you pull back, you get your paint to come through. Still kind of learning this airbrush stuff, but let's see what this looks like. See that very well. Starting to take some color. I'm going to do this in a couple coats, and hopefully it will build up and cover all the areas that I sandblasted, or I should say bead blasted. It's getting there. And it's a similar color. Like I said, I don't want to spray over any of the stamp numbers on here, so I'm going to try to avoid hitting those areas, but I definitely want to fix all the stuff that was cooked in the fire. So it's getting there. It's looking better. Alright, I've been painting on this thing, trying to make it look pretty. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it's definitely better. I probably need to put another few coats on there to cover it up, but it is really close in color to the factory blue. You can see I've painted up here as well. Alright, just finished up doctoring this up the best I could. Color looks pretty darn close, but got some pretty good color on the sides here. So I think that'll work pretty well. Alright, transferred the white foil on top of the black toner, and then put a piece of Mylar over the top of that, ran it through the laminator, and it's done on this special paper that actually releases the image from the paper and keeps it attached to the Mylar, and you use that as your carrier to transfer onto the item that you're going to apply it to. So I'll show that here in just a minute. Okay, here's the Mylar with the image attached to it, and this is that specially formulated paper that separates the image. So now what I have to do is trim this out, and right now I'm just letting it dry off. So I'll trim it out to get that border around there, which actually holds the image to the Mylar, and then I'll flip it over. In fact, I'll show that to you right now. If you look at the back side, you'll see that it's the black toner, and the white foil is applied to that through the laminator. Anyways, this is the side that the adhesive will be sprayed on, and that's how it will transfer onto the gauge. Alright, what I've done here is I put some adhesive down on the paper towel, and I've got this image upside down, and now I'm going to spray some adhesive on this, and I've trimmed this as closely as I can to make sure it fits on this gauge, and I've used this for a reference. And what I did is I punched some holes through where these pins come through, and remove this little rubber stopper. So then I'll put adhesive on that, get it lined up, and apply it on this, and then the adhesive will hold the image down and the Mylar will peel back. So that is my next step in the process. Okay, so you can see I've got the Mylar laid on there, and the image is supposedly stuck on there, so I've got to peel the Mylar off, and then it'll release that image, and then you let it sit for about 24 to 48 hours just to make sure that glue is adhered to the face of the gauge, and it should be good to go. And then I can airbrush the red line on here. Alright, just applied the image, pulled the Mylar film off of it, and it seemed to adhere just fine. So I'm going to let this sit for, like I said, 24 to 48 hours, and then I'll go ahead and do the airbrushing of the red line on this and put it back together and send it off to my good friend Mitch. I'll hit that with a couple coats until I get it to look nice and bright orange. So I'll wait a few minutes and then hit it again. Alright, just got done spraying the needle and the orange part of the red line. And now I've got to set up for yellow and do the part right above the 5,000 mark. So I'll get that started and show you what it looks like. Okay, I got my first coat on there. And I slid it just a hair forward to cover up all the white showing there, so it's got proper coverage on that. Alright, there it is all put together. May touch up the red line a little bit. I still got a little bit of white showing there. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the way that turned out. Hopefully Mitch will be happy with that. I just got to put the circuit board back on and get it calibrated and ship it off to him. Okay, about to put the circuit board back on Mitch's tachometer. So as you can see, I've got everything on the front of this pretty much squared away. I've got the red line airbrushed on there. I got the needle airbrushed, and I just got to work on getting this all bolted up and test it on my Laguna as far as the accuracy. What I do initially is start up the car and pull the needle off, and then use my timing light that tells me what the RPMs are, and try to pop the needle on as closely as I can to what the timing light is showing. So I'll show that here in a minute, but right now I just kind of want to get all this squared away. Alright, so now what I want to do is re-secure this down here, or over here, back where it was originally. So I'm going to use a little bit of Gorilla Snot here. Okay, I'm just going to kind of spread this on the back side here, just so it secures on there nice. Don't want that falling off going down the road. Okay, that should do it. Put a little bit more on this side. Alright, let's see if that'll stick. Okay, I think that's good. Alright. Now that that's Gorilla Snotted on the back of the housing, I'll get the wires hooked up here on the Laguna and do a test on this. Alright, I'm going to let this dry a little bit, get these wires hooked up, and then get these things calibrated. Alright, I got Mitchell's tachometer hooked up, and actually have the power on right now, so if I disconnect that, that should float up a little bit. Help it along here. I reconnected it. Still reading a little bit high. Let's see what it does when we start it up. Alright. Tach says about 740, so we're off just a little bit. It's just a little under where it should be. That's pretty darn close. Just over 800 right now, and it says about the same. I'm going to call that good. Mitchell, you got a calibrated, restored tachometer. Hope it treats you well. Alright, so that test went well for Mitch's tach, so I'm going to make sure I push that down so that doesn't pop off of there. And you can see the aftermarket circuit board there. Just going to disconnect everything and then get this boxed up for him so he can get this back in his Laguna.